Wide Web. Thanks for hanging with us. I'm GW Pomichter. We're at the Magic City Comic Con in Miami, Florida, and we are hanging with Quincy Allen. Quincy, thanks for hanging with us, man.
Pleasure to be here.
Quincy is an author, and right now we're going to talk specifically about Blood Ties, which is the most recent book you've got out there.
Correct.
Okay.
Blood Ties is an interesting work. It's steampunk, but it's actually Old West steampunk epic fantasy. So it's everything in one box. Sometimes people look at me weird, but it's essentially a clockwork gunslinger who has to save a 14th century vampires from being used as a blood sacrifice to prevent a demon army from invading a different world. Right. It's a mouthful. It's a lot of fun. It's a 6-book series.
That's awesome. Yeah. Book number?
This is number one.
This is number one.
Number two will be out in the next few months. I'm wrapping up the edits now, and because it's going through WordFire, we've got a very fast production cycle.
Awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, it makes life easy. I also have a short story collection out, but this is where I'm focused right now.
This is where you're focused right now?
Blood War Chronicles series.
Wow. All right, so you have mashed up, well, just like you picked genres and you just kind of went, yeah, throw it in. Yeah, why not?
Actually, that's how I bill myself.
Yeah, so when did you start writing that style? When did you decide that you were just, you know what, genres are too limited for me, I am the mashup king. So when did you make that choice in your creative career?
I think it was actually when I started. So I ended up, I was 42 years old, got laid off from IT. That's a long story. And I woke up wondering, what the hell am I going to do? I decided to do what I always wanted to do, was writing. And I was always bothered by the fact that you go to a bookstore, and in the good old days, before 2009, there was science fiction, and there was fantasy, and there was Western. And in one way or another, pretty much everything had been done. And I'm like, well, that doesn't quite suit me, and I am kind of ADHD. So I would get bored with certain things and do so quickly. So I figured I started writing short fiction. Like I've got a horror story, a paranormal story that's actually Old West. It's called Demon Train. I've got a ghost story that deals with the largest lynching in U.S. history, combined with the influenza epidemic of 1916. And actually, it's a rape in the Ku Klux Klan in Ohio, and I tie all of those together into a really nice, I like to think, revenge story.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's really fun to take different aesthetics and kind of mix them together. I just love that. It's a lot of fun, and that was one of the neat appeals to steampunk, is that by its very nature, steampunk is essentially an aesthetic.
Well, I was talking to Dave a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about that, because steampunk, as you said, is an aesthetic.
Very much so.
And when you mash up so much with that, you're very much telling a very visual story. Something's really got to stimulate you here before it can even get,
correct,
to that frontal lobe. So, how difficult is that?
Honestly, one of the things that's been easiest for me, I have to work towards getting a really good plot arc and setting some of the details and setting some of the surprises, to really evolve a story. One of the things that's been remarked upon more often than not is that when I do a scene, because I grew up on watching movies, right? So for me, it was always those visual details, the little bits and pieces that made up the scene, what was on the shelf. Now, in writing, you have to be careful not to overdo it, right? And it took me a couple of iterations, but I finally got to the point where people were, actually it's funny, my dad, it's my dad. He has a bias. But that was one of the things he'd remarked upon, was like he could literally see what I was doing, what that room looked like, what the garment looked like, what the guns looked like, or whatever it is.
Wonderful gift.
Yeah, it actually comes in handy. Now, and again, you have to dial it back sometimes so that it's not 4 pages of details, because that gets really... And I learned a lesson once. I was reading a short story I had just cranked out. This was 3 or 4 years ago at a convention in Denver. And I was, we were doing the reading, right? And I'm going through it and reading. It was a description of one of the characters. And it went on and on. And I started out of the corner of my eye, I started seeing people kind of checking out,
That's
right?
great, yeah.
And I'm realizing, dude, I'm about ready to check out. So that went right back to the keyboard and hack. I think you can get into a flow of it. And there's a trick I use. Ultimately, there are going to be 3 reasons I'll put in details. The first is, and it's more subtle, is character development, right? If you're going to describe a detail for a room, that room has to belong to someone.
Yes.
And that has to then relate something about them, right? It gives the reader a reason to understand or how help them understand the person. The other reason is if you put the sword on the mantle, in the next scene or even that scene, somebody better grab
Somebody's
that sword
bloody.
and stab it, right? And the other one is, and I've done this more with actually blood ties because it's a 6-book series. I have to lay groundwork in book 1 for stuff that's going to not really be realized until book 6. Is I have to actually, and I plot a lot of that out. You have to actually specify that detail, but not forget it, so that you can actually pull it up in book 6. The beauty of that, I'm hoping, is that when somebody then reads it, I hope, the second time through, they'll go back and say, "Oh my God, he laid the groundwork for that, right?"
It was there. Yep.
And it was always there all along. And there are little pieces here and there where I know I've done that deliberately. And I think if you do it for those 3 reasons only, for the most part, that will give you enough detail and actually make it so that you're doing it on purpose. Hopefully you don't do it kind of ham-fisted, which is a risk. But it actually then it keeps you from adding in too much.
Now, one of the things that is ever expanding now as the publishing and writing paradigms shift back and forth is the serialization is back again.
Yeah.
So long serials, series that are 6 or 8 or 9 or 10 books deep are they're becoming more and more and more.
Yes.
We're seeing that more and more and more now. Do you find when you're planning, when you're writing, do you plan naturally for a 6-book series, or do you get halfway through this and think I can get 6 more out of this, let's plot that out?
It's
or
a
is
mix.
it a mix?
It is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a mix. I generally will try and if I decide to write a standalone novel, and actually I'm about to. The next 2 books that I have slated for the first half of this year. One is called Paragon, and it's essentially a young girl off-world steampunk aesthetic, but it's about psionics and a theocratic society, and then really ultimately there's a reason why they're all there on this different planet. That's one that's standalone. It'll be a beginning to end, but so writing that project, I will tidy up the end. But I'm always writing in that. Let's assume that one takes off, right? And I'm discovered all of a sudden. I want to be able to go back to that character
that
and
was
into
my
that
worry.
world.
My worry was really that he wouldn't be discovered. I was thinking, I was downstairs, I was looking at all his books, and I thought, God, I hope someone plucks this poor kid out of obscurity.
Well, there's varying degrees. I want to make it to Roatan. So I got to sell a lot of books to get there.
There you go.
So there's this goal in mind. Now the other one is that this one was written I wanted to write kind of a different take on an epic fantasy, and so you have to think in terms of how big does a story need to be to cover 6 books? It's actually pretty big. The other series, and actually it is one, it's called Chemical Burn. We
have that back here to make sure that we spin this up so you guys can see this cover.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool, man.
Alien ex-government assassin turned private detective in L.A. And he's a one-man slaughterhouse.
Wait. Okay.
There was so.
YouTube, give me a second. I'm wrapping my brain around alien, former assassin,
Ex-government assassin.
Ex-government assassin. I'm sorry. The aliens have governments and they have assassins.
Yes.
This is dangerous. Turned LA PI.
Yes, correct.
Awesome.
Thank you.
First of all, awesome. I'm gonna plug myself real quick because
right on.
This is my first. This is a.
Oh, sweet.
This is. By the way, I just gave this away. So there you go, Quincy. This that's gonna be fun.
It is
because there's nothing better than a good detective story unless it's an assassin from outer space detective story. That's even better. I mean, come on. You can't beat that.
There was a recent review in Mystery Scene, and I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially it was Chemical Burn realizes a higher body count than any other novel in thriller fiction. And I was like,
love it.
when I saw that, I was dancing in my chair. I was like, yes, that's what I want.
That's awesome.
You know, is it because it's tongue in cheek. He cracks a lot of jokes and he kills everyone.
Those guys are supposed to be, though. If you're going to create an LA detective,
Yeah.
which is a genre in and of itself,
Yes.
I think. So you've taken folklore and globalized it. Well, it's globalized isn't accurate. You universalized it.
Yes,
in your case.
you know, and it's interesting because in the publishing industry for indies and hybrids now has changed in that when we're writing, we're no longer writing for just the American market or even the local genre market. Your hope is that, like with Chemical Burn, my hope is that the readers in Japan
are having just
develop
as good a
interest,
time.
right? Because this was. I mean, I pulled from Spike, the character Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
Oh wow! Cool.
I mean, it's got all kinds of influences on the anime side. I actually, when we were in LA, there was a guy who he expressed at least interest down the road. So yeah, that's the way it goes. Well, I'll talk to you in 2 years. Sweet. But he was saying, yeah, it would be well suited to an anime environment. And I was thrilled, I mean, that's really what I was shooting for when I wrote it. Actually, on YouTube, I actually had soundtracks for these novels, right? And, it's okay, so I just grab movies, songs from all over.
Fantastic. All right, so you're far from new to the con circuit.
Yes, I'm a veteran.
And you're a veteran. And boy, and every day you're going to be more of a veteran because you guys have had just a really busy time. So when we get people who have been to a lot of cons and have been a vendor and an artist at these cons, you see fans, just new readers, old readers, cosplayers, other creators. You see some cool stuff.
A lot.
What is the coolest, most unique experience that you've had?
That's a hard one. One of the neatest things I saw, and I think it was at Dallas, they all blur together. So I think I did 16 cons last year. I'm going to probably do 24 this year. It was these two guys dressed up as the Mario Brothers. And they had this guy with them who had all these electronics and a speaker and a backpack. And these guys would do this routine with the Super Mario Brothers, and we were rolling. It was so funny. It was really cool.
That is great.
I think one of the reasons I love coming back, because that's one example. There is so much just raw creativity walking down the halls.
It is. This is
fantastic.
Because of that, it works the other way too. The fans are creators. We actually interviewed several of the cosplayers at the first con that we went to.
Cool.
Because
do more of that. That's awesome.
That's amazing. What an incredible set of skills to have. There's a Boba Fett that looks like he just came off the battlefields of Iraq, walking around somewhere.
Yes, I saw. Actually, and I'll do that. I'll give it a thumbs
amazing.
Up. That looked. It's like, dude, that's awesome, right?
That was great.
Yeah, it was really
what
cool.
What a nice, great mashup there. Where are you going to be next, man? Where are you going?
The next show, so I'm at Superstars, which is a writing seminar that Kevin J. Anderson puts on. That's in February. If you're a writer who's looking at either traditional path, indie, or hybrid, I recommend looking up Superstars Writing Seminar. I've recommended it to a number of friends. They walk away knowing a hell of a lot more about the business of writing than when they went in. It's all about the business of it, right? I recommend it to anybody who's writing.
And I hesitate always to give advice as to whether you should go indie or whether you should go traditional or what you should do, except for to say this: if you have an opportunity for the young indies out there to go hybrid, if for no other reason at all, that we never know what we don't know.
That's the truth.
If you're a writer on the World Wide Web, there's a place where you can learn.
Yep. And they've got, so Kevin J. Anderson of Dune and Star Wars, Rebecca Mesta, Dune, actually Star Wars. Tracy Hickman is one of the instructors, Dragonlance. James Artemis Owen, Here There Be Dragons. Jim Butcher's going to be one of the teachers this year, right? I get to rub elbows with some really amazing people, right? Yeah, I was like, dude, it's a buddy of mine jokes about it when I have to pump 4,000 pounds of books. Living the dream. Well, actually, in other regards, I am living the dream, right? So that's the seminar. Right after that, then I'm going to be loading up the truck and we're Pensacola bound. The whole town gets into it, right? And then they not shut down, but they close off their main strip, which is like 4 blocks from the convention center. And so, and it's every restaurant and bar there. They welcome everybody, and it's literally 30,000 geeks descend upon this town.
Wow.
And we're all one of them. When we walked into the Irish Tavern, there was a Doctor Who marathon going on. Right? It's like, okay, I'm home.
Nirvana.
This is it. I'm never leaving. And yeah, Pensacon, the people were great. I mean, and that's the neat thing is every con I've been to last year, and even before that, even in Denver where I started, the folks are great. I mean, I've never really met poopy people at the cons, right? You can't say that anywhere else that I know of.
No,
This is
it's
heaven.
a unique environment.
Yeah,
It is, and we're connected by the things we love, the things we do in our spare time.
Yeah.
So, on the World Wide Web,
yeah.
where can we find you?
QuincyAllen.com, QuincyJAllen.com. They both go to the same thing. That's my website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on Facebook. Friend me up, please. I actually I've got fans and friends I've met here across the U.S. I talk to them all the time. If I'm not writing or working on a book design, which I do for Wordfire and other writers. I've got a young writer in Pensacola who I'm helping. Hey, Pierre, if you see this. Another guy in
Pierre,
Washington.
if you don't see this, you should be watching.
Yes,
the show.
Exactly. And that's really I'm developing this network of it's not fans, it's friends. That's one of the things I love about being in the booth is making these connections.
Real connections.
And it's people I've got. There's these ladies in one in Indianapolis, two in Texas, these guys in Connecticut, who I know personally. And when I say, hey, I've got another book coming out, you think you might like it? They'll either say, no, that doesn't interest me, or yes, absolutely. But you're more likely to be able to kind of increase your career with people who know you. And it's like, I can't imagine a better life.
Yeah, it is. We love doing what we do.
Yeah.
We love talking. We've talked to so many creative, amazing people and heard so many great stories. We get to see books. Some of our earlier guests, kind of tongue-in-cheek shared some upcoming projects, and you're like, oh, dude, I just love knowing. I can't wait till I can say that out loud. Because I just love knowing it. You kind of walk away going, I just love knowing that. It's awesome. So Pensacon, we will definitely see you there. You'll be
Excellent.
there.
Yep. That's going to be a great show.
That's going to be amazing. I'm told we got to wrap it up here a little bit.
It figures.
Real quick, I need to do a shout out to our partners who have helped us out so much over at Something Unique Magazine. Books, chocolate, and wine. I was telling another author earlier, awesome little Facebook page and blog, man. If you get a chance to do a page takeover, whatever, the fans just pour in to ask you any kind of question. What'd you do Saturday night? I mean, they just love to talk to you. Bring like 4 laptops, just like 3 hours, and your fingers can't keep up.
Cool.
It's awesome.
I could do that.
And then the Florida Book News. Lou Belcher with the Florida Book News has been literally every time we put an episode out, she goes ahead and posts it in her blog and sends it out to the Florida Book folks.
Cool.
And Authors for Authors. Dr. Valerie Allen and the entire crew there, who's been sharing these through email chains and things like that, sharing the episodes. So it's just great. That's what it's artists helping artists get to see somebody else, hopefully besides another artist.
Yes, yeah.
And,
but even then, artists buy books.
And of course, our new friends at Wordfire Press, who we are so grateful for helping us come on into the con and hang with all these fantastically creative people.
And thanks for having us, by the way. This is awesome.
Dude, this is amazing. We have been hanging with Quincy Allen. I'm GW Pomichter. Remember, keep tuning in, keep logging on, and see who we're hanging with next.